All right, so I'm super duper excited to talk to one of my good girlfriends and someone that I really, really admire in the counseling field and in life in general. So, for those of you who don't know, Dr. Asha Dickerson is a counselor, educator, supervisor, and all around amazing, amazing woman and human being. So I'm
Thank
super duper
you.
excited to talk with you, and so we'll try not to cut up too much. So, as you all know, April is Counselor Awareness Month, and I thought it was really important to highlight and showcase some amazing counselor educators, counselor supervisors, clinicians who have a diverse background, because I think sometimes we aren't clear what it means to be a counselor. We aren't clear what that path could look like for us. And so I just wanted to use this month, Counselor Awareness Month, to really amplify the work that we're doing, because we are in so many different industries and sectors and different settings. And I think sometimes we don't toot our own horn enough. I think we're doing some amazing work. So I just wanted to start by, let's talk a little bit about you. Tell us your alphabet soup. Tell us a little bit about who you are and who you are as a counselor.
Okay, so I'm Asha Dickerson, as Dr. Robertson said. Who I am is I'm a counselor and I'm a counselor educator. But before all of that, I am a mother and a daughter. I'm a sister, an identical twin sister to the other Dr. Dickerson. And I was born and raised in Montgomery, Alabama. So any of you all who are listening to this will probably hear this deep Southern accent. I try to mask it a little bit, but then I learned people actually kind of like it. And
I
that,
love it.
thank you. I'm trying to be authentic, so I don't mask it as much as I did before. So I currently live in the Atlanta metro area, actually in the suburbs, so about 20 to 30 minutes outside of Atlanta. And I am seeing clients in Gwinnett County. I am still a counselor educator in a few different programs, just adjunct. And I am the Southern Regional Rep for the Association for Multicultural Counseling and Development. So I'm very involved in teaching people, not just counselors, but the community, about cultural awareness and social justice advocacy.
Excellent. So busy, busy, busy. I love that you have so much, I think, diversity, not only in your skill set, but in who you serve, which I think, again, is so important. What made you become a counselor?
So my first job out of college, I had a psychology degree, and probably the only job that I could get was in child protective services, like a lot of people who get a psych degree.
Yes.
But I loved it so much. I worked with children, I use that term loosely, ages 14 to 21, who were aging out of the system. And no matter where I placed them, literally placed children in these large mansions where there were playrooms that were like Chuck E. Cheese. No matter where I placed them, they wanted to be back with their families of origin. I always say, I want to go home to my mama. That's all they ever said. Well, 85% of the cases in DHR, Department of Human Resources, which is what we call Child Protective Services in Alabama, were due to substance abuse issues. So I figured I would be a little more useful if I worked with the root of the problem, because I could take care of these kids while they were in the state's care, not my care, but the state's care. But once they aged out, they were going to usually go back to that family. So I went to get a master's degree in counseling. So I focused on rehab counseling and also on family counseling. And after my first job, we won't mention that one. That one didn't last long. My first counseling job. Then I became the family counselor for Fellowship House, Inc. in Birmingham. And Fellowship House is a United Way agency serving the needs of people with addictions and co-occurring disorders, which I absolutely love. That was a challenge for a lot of people, but it was something that was important to me. So it was a really long time before I worked with what I will refer to as the worried well. My clients didn't worry about, who was stressing them out at their job or their home lives. It was more like, I don't have a home and I'm trying not to smoke crack. So
Yes, right? The real, like,
right.
basics of life, of
Right,
safety,
exactly.
of surviving.
That
Yeah.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they
Yes.
were missing the basics. And a lot of my therapy started with, hey, here's lunch, here's a sandwich,
Yes.
here's
Yes.
some soap, here's some toothpaste.
Yeah.
And I don't expect you to even be willing or ready to talk to me until you handle that stuff. We're going to make sure that you sleep in a safe environment. And when you get ready, you come back and see me the next morning. And then we would delve deeper into your family, because again, I was family counselor and a family coordinator. And what I always stress to my clients then and my students and anyone now is define your own family. Your family
Yes.
doesn't necessarily have to be your blood relatives, because
Mhm.
sometimes your blood relatives are your triggers. And
Yes.
my clients' cases, sometimes they were the ones who sold the drugs to you, the
Yes.
ones who
Yeah.
used you. So we wanted to help clients, and still today, want to help clients figure out who their support system,
Mhm.
who is in their support system, and who they choose to define as their family.
Thank you so much. I
You're
mean, there's
welcome.
so many fascinating pieces about what you shared, so we could definitely kind of go down that hole. But one of the things I want to kind of amplify that you are sharing about just your kind of career, or at least this part of it, because I know you've done so many things since then, is that I think sometimes as counselors, or when people think about counselors, they don't often think about us as being able to provide some of those kind of what we often think of case management or those basic resources. But the reality is that we have that skill set, right? We have to, if we're really going to work with people at different stages of wellness, right?
Mhm.
And the reality is that some of our clients come to us in very critical components, and it would really be to a disservice to say, hey, but let's talk about quality of life and self-actualizing and what do you want to be and all these things. And I'm like, lady, I don't know how I'm going to eat dinner today,
Mhm.
right? I have no idea where I'm going to sleep. And really being able to be in the very here and now and look at the whole person and what those needs are. So I think that's great that you're amplifying that, and that's just a part of your skill set. I think we, again, just need to want people to understand that ranges, right? Again, those different settings that we might find counselors in. So if someone were interested in, so you have a doctorate in counseling,
I
right?
do. I do.
Tell us a little bit about that journey. If someone's interested in, how do we kind of navigate that? You've been an assistant professor. You have an interesting background in being able to write grants, which, I absolutely fan out about, because it's not my jam, right? But so critical. Tell us a little bit about that part of your journey. So the education training piece that kind of gives you the freedom to be where you are today.
Okay. So, and again, in working at Fellowship House, I had a lot of interns from different schools. I think that a lot of schools are training their students to be in private practice, which is great, but a private practice is usually not where you're going to land for practicum and internship. And so I
Yes.
saw that in working with a lot of students, they were coming with these what I like to call private practice words. How are you feeling? And how does that make you feel? And I had to say, whoa, that's not what you can do when you're coming into residential, substance. You're going to get snapped on. You're going to say something that's not culturally sensitive. And with my population, depending on how long they've been on their medication, you may get attacked.
Mm-hmm.
You might get touched inappropriately. There's just a different approach that you needed to work in a community setting. And that was one of the main reasons that I wanted to go back to school to be a counselor, educator, and supervisor, because I wanted to be able to bring that practitioner model to counselor education. Research is great. Grant writing is really great. I did do, as you said, a lot of grant writing, and still do some grant writing today. I was passionate about that because grant writing felt like winning to me for the population for which I was working, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's sometimes easy to get money for women, children, and puppies, but it's really hard to get money for adults who are using drugs.
Yeah.
So if I could write a grant and get money for that population, I really felt like I was winning for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went back to school to teach students how to prepare themselves to work with people who were dealing with severe mental illnesses beyond diagnosing them, because everyone takes the
Yes.
diagnosis class. I love to put some experiential activities into every class I have. I want you to get out there and make contact with these populations for you to get uncomfortable, because it is going to be uncomfortable, especially if you've never been in certain communities before.
Yes.
And I wanted to be able to provide clinical supervision, which I still provide today. And so clinical supervision goes well beyond, making sure that you turn in all of your paperwork and your notes are correct so that the agency can get paid. It also goes into how are you interacting with your clients? How are you taking care of yourself? How are you how you make sure that you don't go home with all the things that are dumped on you all day. And so that's why I went back to school to get my PhD. Now, as for other people going back to school, I like to say, you need to do a lot of reflection. Never go back to school just because you want to be Dr. Jane Doe. That's really not going to be enough to get you through anybody's program.
It will not sustain you for all of the things that you will encounter, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Especially when you get to that dissertation part. If you already know that you don't like writing essays, you don't like reading journal articles, they're boring to you, you get no satisfaction out of reading them, then going into a doctoral program is not necessarily for you. And I don't want anyone to be set up for failure. So where was I going with that? Dissertation, that's where I was going. So a lot of people stop at dissertation and then they put ABD behind their names. Let's talk about that.
No.
It's not a credential.
It is not a thing. It is not a real thing. It is not.
Nowhere. It doesn't come with a certificate. You don't even finish your dissertation proposal and they say, congratulations, Jetta Robinson, ABD. I mean, I don't even know what the front part of that would be. But there's a reason for that. There's a reason that people don't finish their dissertations, and the people, you go in knowing that you probably won't finish. But then I just have had a lot of conversations with people who say, yeah, I was in a doctoral program and then, I just didn't finish my dissertation. Or they still put ABD in their signature. And I'm quick. I'm quick to correct an email signature.
So what are some things that you would tell people who are considering, whether they're considering a doctorate or a master's in clinical mental health or in counseling education or kind of on this journey? What are some things that you think that you'd like people to know, right? What are maybe some tips or just some things that maybe you wish you knew or that you learned as a result of your experience? What do you think?
So I would say, I'm going to go backwards. So starting with the doctorate, I'm going to say that if you want to provide supervision, you don't have to get a doctorate for that. You just have to practice in the field long enough and do some training in order to do supervision. If you want to teach, and you don't necessarily want to teach in the master's or doc program, you don't have to go get a doctorate for that either. So you don't go to school just because those are your goals. You have to be really passionate about doing research or doing presentations. For the master's degree, I would say weigh exactly what you want to do. Like look up psychologist, social worker, counselor, and even sociologist if you want to, and write down what it is exactly that they do and decide if counseling is for you. Because what we do not do is give advice. We help clients get unstuck, and we help them move through the process in their own time and in their own way, and let them come up with things themselves. Because when the client does well, you can't take credit for it, and you can't blame yourself when they don't do well. The last thing you want is for them to blame you when they don't do well. And the best way to do that is to not give advice.
Yes.
So don't do that. I think that social workers have a little more leeway there where they can give advice. And so we leave that to the social workers. And any clients that have ever told me that well, why don't you just give me advice? I'm more than happy to refer them out to a social worker.
Okay. What are some things that I think people find interesting, or they're just unaware that you do, right, on a day-to-day basis as a counselor educator, supervisor, that people often don't think, like, wait, I didn't know that counselors could do that. Is there anything that comes up? It comes up every now and again. for me, some folks think that we can't diagnose, and it's like, okay.
Well, and so the thing about that is that differs from state to state. We
It does.
could when I was in Alabama, but then I moved to Georgia and found out that counselors were fighting for the right to diagnose. And I'm like, what? I've been doing that. So does that mean I can't do that in the state?
Yes.
I think we can do it now. There was a lot of advocacy involved around that. Mm-hmm. One thing that people may be a little more surprised about that I do as a counselor and a counselor educator is that I educate the masses. When it comes to counselors, people who are in counseling programs, we all take a multicultural class, a social and cultural diversity class. Yes. I like to get out into those big businesses where, you know, they don't know anything about white privilege. They're still promoting the same people and do a privilege walk with them. You know, a lot of counselors have already done a privilege walk. I want to do some privilege walks with people who make millions of dollars, not because they make millions of dollars, but because they need to understand how they have a leg up over a lot of other people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And how that shapes kind of organizational environment and cultures that really get there. It's systemically and institutionally kind of grounded, so much so that we don't even realize some of our HR policies reinforce.
Exactly.
Right? Reinforce that to the detriment of really a diverse workforce, right? Diverse and capable workforce. I think that's excellent, excellent, excellent. So I know that you provide workshops and trainings and supervision. Tell us a little bit about if anyone is listening to this and they're saying, you know what, I think I need to talk to her, right? I need some of what she has going on. How do they get a hold of you? Tell us where we can find you and what you have available for folks that might need it.
Okay, so anyone who is looking for me can go to my website. It is www.Asha Dickerson, and that is ASHADICKERSON, AshaDickerson.com. They tell me you don't have to put the 3 W's in front of it.
I know, right?
But you know, I'm really old school.
And the link will be posted as well as all of your handles. Yeah.
And my email address is asha.dickerson@gmail.com. And people always call me 404-904-9188. Again, I love going out and talking in the community. I was at Emory yesterday and Clark the day before that.
Yes.
And some of the more popular ones these days are that people like to learn about comic book heroes and villains. And
yes,
I like talking about comic book villains. They remind me a lot of my clients because there's a lot of trauma in their background. And so many people are looking at the story of the hero and how they became the hero, but no one ever really pays attention to the backstory of the villain.
That's right.
How they got to be where they are. So the kids and the teens seem to like that one, but it really helps them understand why some people act the way that they act.
Yeah, I like that. I saw that you were doing that. I think that is awesome. Anything else that you have going on? You speak all the time.
I know, right? Like, what else do I have going on? Well, I will be at the NBCC Symposium in May. I will do a talk about villains, and I'll also be the keynote for the awards presentation. So I hope you all make it to the presentation.
Yes.
To the NBCC Symposium and the wonderful Atlanta area. I can tell you where all the great restaurants are because I love to eat.
You know, I'm always in your inbox about that. And you have a podcast. Tell us about the podcast.
It's actually, so we started out as a podcast and now we're on the radio in 3 different states. So it's 2 therapists and a microphone with myself and Dr. Harrison Davis. And we are on the radio every Tuesday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. talking about things that affect mental health. This upcoming Tuesday, we'll be talking with Carl Hugo Davis, and I forget the name of the other speaker, but it'll be on my social media sometime soon. But we're talking about financial wellness and the connection to mental health, because being broke will affect your mental health. The poverty is a mental health issue.
Absolutely. And in the reverse.
Well, exactly.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to just put in a personal ask, talking about mental health and weight loss.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a good one.
I know. Yeah. So
Well, we are always looking for new speakers. If you go to our website, twotherapist.com, and that's therapist with an S, you can always submit your name and a topic if you're interested in being on our radio show. And so it's on the radio, and it goes into a podcast after we're live. And so we're on Apple Podcasts, on Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, a bunch of other things that the radio station handles. So
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, I'm so thankful that you took this time out of your busy schedule, because you are doing all of the amazing things. So I really, really appreciate that. And I know that you represent the best that the counseling profession has to offer. So again, thank you so much for all the amazing work that you do, and for sharing some of that time and kind of light with us. So
Thank you too, and thank you for all you're doing for interviewing me and the other counselors that you'll be talking to. I think it's a great project.
Thank you. Well, you have an amazing, amazing day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.